Hi everyone, welcome to Difference Frames the World, a channel where you can see the world differently. Please subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification so you will not miss our videos uploaded every week. Today we discuss Beijing's military exercise, Joint Sword 2024B, and why it ended so quickly. In a previous video, we discussed China's Joint Sword 2024A and asserted there would be a Joint Sword 2024B shortly. It came true on October 14, 2024, after the Taiwanese leader delivered his National Day speech. The drill lasted 1 day only, to be exact, 13 hours, surprisingly shorter than expected. However, the Chinese military warned it would take further action against Taiwan's independence elements if necessary. Beijing's military exercise invited criticism from the US, which China could not care about less. Beijing condemned the Taiwan leader's address and was angry that he claimed China had no right to represent Taiwan. Lai Ching-te and his government asserted only the Taiwanese people could decide Taiwan's destiny. The Joint Sword 2024B drills started suddenly in the Taiwan Strait on the early morning of October 14, 2024. The swift end of the exercise was also unexpected. Some on the island claimed Beijing feared America and its allies' interference. We hardly think so. From the drill's name, Joint Sword 2024B, we can conclude that these drills have become routine pressure against Taiwan's independence rhetoric, and similar exercises could follow at any time necessary. The Chinese military stated that the People's Liberation Army's actions will be pushed further with each Taiwan independence provocation until the Taiwan issue is completely resolved. The Eastern Theater Command referred to the drills as a stern warning to the separatist acts of Taiwan independence forces, saying, "It is a legitimate and necessary operation for safeguarding state sovereignty and national unity." The US denounced China's war games, calling them undermining the region's peace and stability. Pentagon stated, "This military pressure operation is irresponsible, disproportionate, and destabilizing." China's foreign ministry sniffed at America's criticism, saying it is none of the United States' business. Right now, the US has no aircraft carriers in the region. Moreover, the tension in the peninsula, the Ukraine war and conflicts in the Middle East will drain its energy, making it impossible for the Pentagon to defend Taiwan even if it wants to. The half-day exercise was much shorter than the drill in late May, Joint Sword 2024A, which lasted 48 hours. Still, it achieved its goals. Beijing dispatched more aeroplanes, including its J-20 stealth fighters, to block the island, and its warships were closer to Taiwan Island than in the previous drill. For the first time, its Coast Guard joined the exercise. China's first aircraft carrier, Liaoning, also appeared in the area, ejecting warplanes one after another. The mainland did not disclose dates for further large-scale drills, meaning they could happen anytime without notice. The map publicized by the Theater Command highlights 9 assault areas of the drill, 2 on Taiwan's east coast, 3 on the west, 1 to the north, and 3 around small islands near the mainland coast but controlled by Taiwan. Chinese destroyers and aircraft approached Taiwan from different directions, focusing on sea-air combat readiness patrols, blockading key ports and areas, and assaulting maritime and ground targets, according to the Theater Command's announcement. It is worth mentioning that China's Liaoning aircraft carrier and supporting vessels appeared east of Taiwan, to prevent foreign forces from interfering with the Taiwan issue. In previous years, Taiwan's separatist leaders also delivered speeches that angered Beijing, but Beijing refrained from taking military actions like this October. For many decades, China's mainland has been trying to unite with the island peacefully. In recent years, however, it has realized peaceful reunification is improbable, especially when Taiwan's independence elements want to rely on the United States and its allies to resist Beijing's reunification efforts. Like the recovery of Taiwan by the Qing dynasty in 1683, forceful reunification might be the only option for Taiwan to return to its motherland after decades of attempts to reunite with the island peacefully. Today's Taiwan issue is more complicated than that in the Qing dynasty. When Kangxi Emperor recovered Taiwan in the late 17th century, the United States was not founded, and it was still a cluster of British colonies. Today's America is already a declining power, and it cannot defeat any troops except some tribes on the Caribbean islands. Still, it wants to stop China from recovering the island. Although Washington upholds its so-called One China policy, it keeps selling arms to Taiwan, trying to create a second Ukraine in Asia. Ironically, the U.S. military-industrial complex cannot produce enough weapons and equipment, and there is a huge backlog accumulating, including promised sales to the island of Taiwan. For instance, in August 2024, 22 new foreign military sales to Taiwan were announced, but all of them were lip service, with no deliveries for a long time. The total backlog of U.S. arms to Taiwan has reached almost $21 billion. Even though the U.S. relentlessly propagandizes new arms deals with Taiwan for political purposes, most of them cannot be fulfilled due to various reasons. The recent Joint Sword 2024B military drill simulated the blockade of Taiwan's major seaports and airports, and the Chinese Coast Guard ships patrolled Taiwan anti-clockwise. It shows Beijing can stop any foreign vessels and planes from entering the airspace and waters of Taiwan, making arms deliveries impossible. Taiwan is recognized internationally as part of China, so Beijing will not allow foreign warships to trespass on Taiwan's waters and access its seaports. The DPP authorities' representative to the United States said a few days ago that to ease the delay in U.S. arms sales to Taiwan, the island and the United States have started a dialogue on the joint production and development of weapons, and plan to produce or assemble arms purchased from the United States on the island, making Taiwan a link in the military supply chain. China firmly opposes any form of military contact between the United States and Taiwan, urging the United States not to provide weapons to the island. U.S. arms dealers are reported to treat the DPP authorities as idiots, selling unserviceable and excessively priced weapons to the island. Raytheon, an American arms dealer, was recently exposed for multiple price-raising frauds in arms sales to Taiwan. The Taiwan Defense Department confirmed the case, which ignited public opinion on the island. Raytheon has participated in arms sales to Taiwan many times, and Beijing has imposed sanctions on it. This incident fully exposed the ugly face and pathetic situation of the DPP authorities who, for the selfishness of one party, squandered the hard-earned money of the Taiwanese people, willing to become the ATM for the United States to withdraw cash. Despite repeated pricing frauds, Taiwan's separatists still had to find excuses for those perpetrators, as they can only rely on those cheaters to keep their illusional faith. More and more people on the island have seen clearly that the DPP authorities' psychological reliance on the United States will only harm Taiwan, and the pursuit of independence by force is a dead end. Resistance to reunification with military might is destined to fail. We often say that Taiwan cannot resist the mainland by force like Ukrainians fighting the Russians, as it is an island with no space for tactical and strategic maneuvers. Just like what it did and is doing to Ukraine, the United States has been constantly pushing Taiwan to improve its self-defense capabilities, and continuing to sell and provide military aid to the island. The DPP authorities have cooperated with the United States to exaggerate the so-called threat from the mainland's military, saying they will train 400,000 civilians across Taiwan to participate in whole society defense. In early April 2024, The Economist published an article titled, "Would You Really Die for Your Country?" In that article, 77% of Taiwan's youth said yes, and in China's mainland, it is 88%. It is a tricky question, indeed. To tick yes or no is easy, but when war comes, to fight or not is different from answering a question. Taiwan's military is well known for its strawberry soldiers, and it remains a question whether the DPP authorities can train hundreds of thousands of civilians to become Sparta warriors. The United States wants to sell weapons to Taiwan to serve its domestic military-industrial complex, not to protect the Taiwanese people or for the good of Taiwan. Whenever there is a crisis, the U.S. will ask where its aircraft carriers are. Now it is Taiwan's turn to ask why the U.S. has not sent its aircraft carriers to the area, after China conducted its Joint Sword 2024A military exercise in late May 2024. Lai Ching-te was sworn into office on May 20, 2024, and everyone knew his provocative speech would enrage Beijing, and a military exercise would inevitably follow. However, the USS Reagan aircraft carrier left Japan for the USA several days before the new Taiwan leader's inauguration. What kind of support did the U.S. provide to back Lai Ching-te then? The answer is straightforward. The U.S. military did not want to underestimate the danger and risk of Lai Ching-te and the DPP authorities' Taiwan independence secessionist plot, which might drag the U.S. into a hopeless war with China, and it also understood China's firm will and strong ability to defend its national sovereignty and territorial integrity. It wanted to avoid a potential conflict with Beijing's Liberation Army. Some anti-China channels on YouTube laughed at the short duration of Beijing's Joint Sword 2024B military drill, saying China was afraid of foreign interference and succumbed to the pressure from the United States, which is rather laughable. China's future exercises may be even shorter and more frequent, so both the island and external forces will get used to them. One day, such exercises will become real attacks, solving the Taiwan issue before anyone realizes the war is over. The reunification of China is not far, but unfortunately, it might be strenuous and brutal, not peaceful and pleasant like a breeze.